Michael Lee from the Nerds of Color, and I get to talk to Queen Nian, Don Hall, and Roy Connolly. How are you guys doing?
Doing great. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you very much. So Strange World clearly pulls from those pulp comics of the past, but there's still a modern day feel to it because there's an interracial family, a woman of color who's president, and there's also these themes of fathers and sons, which feels timeless. So I was wondering how you were able to tie that all in together and make sure it's to tell a clear and concise story.
Wow, that's a good question. Well, I mean, as far as the diversity and inclusion, I think that was built in from the beginning, you know, wanting the film to reflect the world we see around us, you know, and it was top of mind from the very beginning. Also because we knew the story was going to be an adventure story and we were going to a world that really, especially at the beginning, had no boundaries. That we needed to root the story in a relatable family construct, and that's why, you know, the father-son construct gave us that ability to do that, because Queen and I, you know, we were both, you know, fathers, and we have fathers, and so we could draw upon a lot of our own personal experiences in the film.
So you touched upon the personal experiences. What are there any other concepts that, or you know, modern day concepts that you guys are going to explore in this film, or is it just the fathers and sons aspect of the story?
It's hard to go like modern day concepts, you know, since it all feels very contemporary in the sense that like the issues that they're facing are things that I think are very real to what we live in now, right? Like the kind of like at the inception of the movie, it was like Don wanting to make a movie about you know, what kind of world our kids are going to inherit and what is our responsibility to that world, and you know, how do we become good ancestors to future generations. And so that's why the generational why there are fathers, sons, and sons in this, to be able to talk about that directly. So that feels like a very contemporary, very modern, very real thing that we're going through, but yes, mixed with a very classic, you know, adventure story that could, you know, so long Jules Verne's and you know, Indiana Jones or any of those classic adventure films, but with a topic or at least a theme of legacy, that about, you know, the things that we're actually going through right now and being good citizens to our world or planet.
So I have one more question. Because there's a lot of crossover. Don, you worked with Kui on Raya, and Don worked with Roy on Big Hero 6. I was just wondering how much of that a rapport plays into the idea of making things work and making sure that you guys are going to tell the stories that you want to tell while also making audiences enjoy that same story.
Sure.
It's so great to watch Don and Kui, given the fact that they worked on this film for about a year and then went over and worked on Raya and The Last Dragon. And then we came back to the film. And when they came back, their communication was so strong. It was so great to see. They finished each other's sentences. They were, you know, just a mind meld. And then if there was ever questions between the two, there was resolution almost immediately. It was really great. It was really great.
And as the new person out of the three to the studio, it's great to be with two people that have been at the studio for, like, you know, with Roy like 30 years, Don like 25, 26 years, to have like a connection to a legacy much larger than just the one, you know, than what I knew about, that they have experiences upon experiences that you know, we're all pulling from to make these movies. So it was really cool to be part of all that.
Well, unfortunately, I have to wrap up, but I want to say one goodbye with I always show something like this, and then for the Big Hero 6 people, I have this little so I always
I have
thank
him
you guys
too.
so much. You have it too. See, I miss those now. I'm Michael Lee from the Nerds of Color, and I'm talking to Mehrdad Isvandi and Sean Jenkins who worked on Strange Worlds. How are you guys?
Good. Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
No problem.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. So unlike some of these previous worlds we've seen in your animated features, like Frozen, Moana, and Raya, the Last Dragon, Strange World pulls from the pulp comics that are inspired by like Land of the Lost and Edgar Wright Burroughs works. So can you tell me about what your approach was, or what kind of new animation techniques or technologies that you use in order to take what was on those pages and bring it to life with that kind of Disney magic twist?
Well, really, we start from nothing. We build it all up from scratch. So, on an approach in technology, it's really about defining the rules of the world, and then giving the talented group of artists that we have those broad rules and letting them come with a lot of ideas. I saw this great photo of a sea creature, or a coral reef, and I think I could use it in this particular part. Or I got inspired by food, and added it to the design of something that you'll end up seeing in the environment. So really, then it gives the artists a chance to really, particularly in this movie, add their own flair to a lot of the pieces.
So that sounds like a lot of fun. And then because I'm going to lean into the kind of the themes of the movie, because there's themes about fathers and sons, that I'm sure it ties into the stunning visuals that we saw, because they were awesome, seeing the tadpole-like creatures to the kind of the floating worlds or floating pieces of land. How do you make sure that you tell that story and convey that image without straying too far from each other?
Sorry, I think I got disconnected for a second. Can you say that again?
So how do you make sure you tie in the themes of fathers and sons with the stunning visuals without it having to stray too far away from each other?
We have this vision from directors and writer Kui and Don, that how the feeling of the story between the characters, all the dynamic works, and that gets even one level more richer when it goes to a storyboard artist's hand, and they put tons of exploration on their own to what they craft. And when it comes to us, it's which our team and production design, we kind of go research on our own and try to add as much as we can for the visuals. Okay, what's good to see here? What's good to see here? And to make it easier, because it's a huge epic movie, how to control that was putting some like I was dividing their world in the three places: Avoloina, the city, the farm, Searcher Farm and mountains, and the strange world. Now we have a smaller chunk to parts to attack, and then little by little, everybody help to now plug in the ideas that they can. So it's kind of, we break it down to pass it to amazing team that we have.
All right, well then, thank you so much, you guys. I had to wrap, unfortunately, but this is, I love what I saw in the 20 minutes. It just looks mind-blowing, and I can't wait to see the whole thing in its entirety.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much.
I'm Michael Lee from the Nerds of Color, and I'm talking to Justin Sklar and Amy Smeed, the heads of animation on Strange World. How are you?
Good.
Good. So I want to know what exactly the prep work is like, because there are a lot of characters in here, all shapes and sizes, and it's fun to celebrate that. And so what is the prep work like? Because in previous long leads like this, we've seen them record themselves running or doing all sorts of the action. So what is that process like?
In terms of setting up our characters and things for a movie like this, Amy and I have been on this movie for about 2 years. We spent a full year of that working with the viz dev team and the modeling team and the rigging team to set up all of our characters, which means basically putting the rigs in them and designing all of the designing what a smile looks like, designing what a frown looks like, designing what their blinks look like, which takes a huge amount of work from a whole bunch of different people. Because ultimately what we're trying to build is something that gives us a huge amount of flexibility and will allow us to hit all the shapes that we need to hit, and doesn't get in the way when we're trying to perform. And then a lot of the other work that we had done on the show to prepare is really just deciding on what the style was going to be and how we were going to talk about it. Because in a lot of our films, we, to your point, like we tend to be very focused on shooting reference, and filming ourselves and figuring out how we're going to construct a performance around that. But we really wanted to lean into something that was a little bit broader and more push, and felt more like how you would draw some of these choices, which pushes us a little bit away from reference. And so it was really important for us that we could articulate the ways in which we wanted to do that. So as animators rolled onto the show, they understood what we were going for and could quickly kind of reorient their brains to do the animation that we were thinking of on this film.
So since you were stepping away from that references, was that any different with animating the Legend, the three-legged dog, or Splat? Was that any different? Or
I think with Legend, when we were in pre-production working on that character, we had Louis was our supervising animator, Louis Jones, and then Svetla was helping out. And I remember Svetla looking at a lot of reference of three-legged dogs to see what the locomotion and how that movement works. And she was doing a bunch of tests up front with like walk cycles and run cycles. And Legend is just kind of a happy dog. Legend's happy all the time, which we love about him. And then like you were mentioning with Splat, the challenging thing with a character like that, aside from all the tentacles that we have to animate, is it really is something that has to come from imagination, because there's no reference out in the real world for anything that remotely looks like Splat. So seeing the animators come up with some really entertaining choices, they're very creative. And it was always really fun for Justin and I to see what they were coming up with when they were showing directors their work. Directors would give them just like, okay, Splat needs to communicate this idea in this scene. And then they go back to their desk, and a week or two later come back with something we call blocking pass. And there are just so many entertaining choices with that character. So I think we're all really excited for you all to see the film and see more of Splat and Legend and all the other characters as well. And just Strange World.
Yes, as a dog owner, I am really excited. I'm really excited to see all sorts of dogs. So, especially in animated, because I love the research that goes into it and how they transfer that to on screen. Unfortunately, I do have to wrap, but thank you so much. I enjoyed the 20 minutes that I saw. The characters are so vibrant and rich and complex, and I really can't wait to see it. Thank you.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
In the lectures, fanboys, professional artists, and professors. Maybe a nerd who's just like you, talking about the things that you like too. So I invite you to the NOC.